Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Skaya. Poland's economy is showing signs of renewed momentum. Now, analysts at PZU, one of Poland's largest insurance and financial groups, say growth is driven by consumer spending, rising industrial output, and stronger retail sales. Now, joining us now to break down what this means for everyday Poles is Professor Błażej Podgórski from the Department of Finance at the Kozminski University, and he's with us here in the studio. Professor, thank you so much for being with us here this morning. Now, let me ask you this.
Thank you for your invitation, and great welcome.
Well, this is good news amidst a war that we have next door with our neighbor, but let me ask you this now. So, Poland's GDP grew a lot faster than expected. Now, what does this mean for our economy? I mean, if from my understanding correctly, the GDP grew from 3.3% to 3.7% in this analysis by PZU. What do those numbers tell us?
So basically, it's quite optimistic information, yes. But of course, from one side, it's optimistic because we have a growth of the gross domestic product, yes, and it's very good for the economy. But always the question is, why this growth? What is the drivers of this growth? This growth is driven mostly by the consumption, yes, and this retail spending, yes. So it's basically do not build the whole economy as a good fundament for the longer period of the time, because it's not the investment. But the reason why this growth we can notice now is just basic the policy of the central bank, because central bank cut the rates twice, 3 times during this year, and it's have the positive impact of all the spending which you have in economy, all the spending of the households.
So now, I'm just like you mentioned, I mean, we're talking about consumption, right, as one of the main growth driver. But what factors, I mean, if you're talking about consumption, are making that, or boosting that consumer spending right now?
Basically the spendings, yes. So basically customers, households, spending money for the consumption, for the buy some kind of assets, yes. The growth of the selling the new cars, growth of the selling of the AGD, RTF, yes, so all the equipment for the apartments, yes. So this growth.
What about like real estate? Can I put that in there, or?
So apartments, real estate, the whole market, yes. You buy some kind of extra equipment to your home,
right?
Yes. So this is this kind of the spending. So basically, it's retail, yes. So those this growth is growth by retail spendings, yes. It's not the whole investment which we wanted to have it. In Poland, but it's quite hard in this kind of economic situation with the rates, which we have it 1 year ago, 2 years ago, yes, and a whole economic situation of our region, yes, but it shows the light in the tunnel, I will say, in that case. So we are going in the positive way, so we see how it goes on the next period of the time.
Tell us a little bit more. I mean, you just mentioned investments in the country, and like I said, given that we have a war right next, I mean, how do you view investments right now? Like, if you were to advise to make the best investments, which sector would you
I would say
advise on?
We have 3 parts of the investment when we just think. The first one is the part of the government spending. The government spending inside building the infrastructure. Yes, and we're trying to do something with the central communication port. Yes, so it's quite positive, but it's a long period of the time. Yes. Second part is the spending of the companies, the investment from the companies to build a new factories, to build a new real estates. Mm-hmm. Yes. This one, and the third one, which government can create the booster, is the whole spending with all the subsidiaries, all the dotation from the European Union, yes, and it's also growing. Of course, it's much harder after the whole situation which we have a few months ago with the buying the luxury equipment for the companies from HoReCa industry, mm-hmm. Yes, but without the spending of the government to support the companies for the investment project, it will be quite hard to create a longer period of the growth of the gross domestic product.
Professor, what about exports?
Exports is also quite important, but this exports goes drive based on it if you have the investment, because you have started the production and then you have something to export. Because now we export a lot of automotive parts to Germany, but we have to know what happened with the German economy due to the competition from China, and whole European automotive industry. It's a little bit on the defensive way, yes, because they cannot compete now with the Chinese producers with the prices. Yes, so basically export will be driven when we have something to produce. This is one option, and of course there are services. So from this part of the services, here we have a lot of service centers in Poland, in Warsaw, especially in Krakow. Yes, from the anti-money laundering sector, from the IT sector. Yes, but it's also have to create the boosters. IT is quite more complicated now because we know that our government thinking about the change of the tax regulation for them. Yes, and we have to know that the growth of the whole IT sector based on the cheap taxes from them. So if we increase the taxes, if we delete the option of the B2B agreements, yes, between the companies, between the people who work there, so we have a quite big problem because our services will be not competitive with the other services from the other countries, for example, Romania, Bulgaria, or other countries from Europe.
And let me ask you this. I mean, you mentioned earlier that, retail sales are up. I mean, more Poles are investing, let's say, in household goods, like you mentioned. So what does that tell us about ordinary Polish citizens? I mean, does this show that people in Poles actually feel confident about money?
Yes and no, yeah. So always
yes
means that we have two sides. Always we have two sides. From one perspective, we have to remember from the last few months or even 1 year and longer, though those kind of spendings are all very, very deep level, yes. So they are very, very shallow. Now it's natural that it's growing up due to this period of the time when the households are saving money, yeah. So this is one perspective. Second perspective, people think that there's the time to buy because the prices are quite okay. Of course we have.
So is it a good time to buy?
Probably yes. Of course we have to remember also that we are in the period before the Christmas. Yes, we have the period. Season. So it's also growing up. Yes, we buy a lot of toys. We buy all the equipment for the Christmas. We see that in this year. In Poland, the Christmas starts a little bit earlier because I see Advent calendar in shop next to my apartment.
In early November, yeah.
No, early November.
October?
It's September. 10 of September I saw it. So, it's quite weird. Yes, because it's 4 months before that. Yes. So it happened.
On another note, let me ask you, what risks could actually slow Poland's economic growth in the next few months? I mean, what kind of challenges can we see there?
So I think the biggest challenge is the tax regulation. Yes, if we change tax regulation without any analysis of this tax regulation or deep analysis, what is the impact and full impact? How many companies will close due to this situation? How much of business will go out from Poland? Because it's natural. If you have expensive taxes, if you have expensive environmental for provide the business, you're looking for the place where it's cheaper.
Right.
Yes, that was the situation why we have a lot of business from the previous 10, 20 years in Poland, because we are cheaper than the other countries. And there's something bad to compete with the other countries that we have a cheaper cost of the production, cheapest cost of the living. It's quite okay.
Right.
Yeah, this is one option. Second option is the question of how the government spending goes with the different grants. Yes, because we have still KPO. Yes, we have still a lot of grants from government which support the business. So if this money will run for the business, for the project, it's also create the growth of the economy. And the second and the last point, what happened with the companies, what happened with the interest rate, yes, and the interest rate will be quite lower, yes, probably in the next period of the time. It's also create the impact for the companies to start the production, to start the building of the whole infrastructure.
And just very briefly, in under a minute, in 3 words, how do you project the economy to look like in 2026 for Poland?
If our government don't destroy anything, it will be quite positive.
Thank you so much, Professor Błażej Podgórski from the Department of Finance at Kozminski University, for all your input with us here on World Talks.
Thank you very much for your invitation for today.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Skaya. Thanks for watching.